I never thought a simple party would leave such a deep mark on my life. When my husband mentioned that his friends were planning a night gathering and insisted I come along, I hesitated. I wasn't fond of loud music or crowded rooms, but the way he looked at me, as if this small favor meant the world, left me with no excuse to refuse. We had been married long enough for the excitement between us to dull. Our conversations often revolved around routine, and our evenings felt more like schedules than moments of love. So, I convinced myself that maybe this party could be a small way to connect again, to break the cycle of predictability. The night of the party, I carefully chose a dress that wasn't too flashy yet carried enough charm to make me feel seen. My husband seemed proud as he introduced me to his circle. His friends greeted me with warmth, some with exaggerated compliments that made me politely smile while pretending not to notice the way their eyes lingered. I brushed it off, telling myself it was harmless, just men being men, though a quiet part of me wondered why I felt a mix of unease and flattery at the same time. The atmosphere was thick with music and laughter. Glasses clinked together, the sound of conversations overlapped with the steady thump of bass. People moved in and out of the living room, carrying drinks, exchanging jokes, and leaning in closer than necessary. I sat for a while watching my husband, who was already lost in stories and laughter with his old friends. He seemed so at home with them, so absorbed that he barely noticed I was drifting into the background. That realization left me with an odd emptiness, though I tried to suppress it. Every now and then, I caught someone's glance. It wasn't accidental, it lingered longer than politeness allowed. A compliment whispered close to my ear, a hand brushing mine when passing a glass, a smile that held something deeper than friendliness. My heartbeat grew restless, not because I intended to act on any of it, but because the attention stirred something I hadn't felt in a long time. Desire mixed with guilt, and I reminded myself to stay in control. The drinks flowed generously, and the room grew heavier with bold laughter and playful dares among friends. My husband, oblivious to the undertones, joined in the noise, his laughter echoing across the room. But I could feel the weight of eyes on me, subtle gestures pulling me into an unspoken game. I tried to focus on small conversations, to blend into the crowd, yet the strange magnetic pull was undeniable. Inside, a quiet battle had already begun. A small voice warned me to stay guarded, while another whispered that I was still young, still capable of being desired, still more than just a wife fading into routine. And as the night deepened, I could sense something shifting, as if the boundary between right and wrong was being tested by nothing more than a lingering look and the promise of a secret. Word count, ~576 white heavy checkmark. Do you want me to continue straight into section 2, 570 plus words, with the same intensity and flow, or pause here so you can review the tone first? My husband was the center of attention, retelling old stories with his friends, his laughter booming above the music. I sat quietly, watching him with a smile I wasn't sure was real. He was so engaged with them that he barely glanced in my direction, and that small neglect made me feel invisible. I sipped my drink slowly, letting the warmth spread through me, trying to remind myself that it was just a night of fun. But the longer I sat there, the more I felt like a stranger beside my own husband. One of his friends, the one whose eyes had already lingered too long, found a way to draw me into conversation. It started harmlessly, a question about my work, a comment about how my dress suited me. His words carried a softness that contrasted the loud energy of the room, and for the first time that night, I felt like someone was actually paying attention to me. My husband was only a few feet away, yet it felt like he was in another world, leaving me alone in mine. That loneliness made his friend's presence heavier, sharper, harder to ignore. The music shifted to something slower, more intimate, and before I could refuse, he extended his hand. I hesitated, looking back at my husband, but he was too distracted to notice. With a reluctant nod, I placed my hand in his. The touch was light at first, then deliberate, as if he wanted me to feel the weight of it. On the dance floor, the closeness felt wrong but intoxicating. My body moved to the rhythm, his arm brushed my waist, and though I told myself to step away, I didn't. The heat of his skin through the thin fabric made my breath uneven. When the song ended, I laughed nervously, trying to disguise the turmoil inside me. He leaned in, his lips close enough to feel the heat of his breath. His words were low, meant only for me. You deserve to be seen, he whispered. The statement pierced me deeper than I cared to admit. I pulled away, yet the echo of his voice settled inside me like a secret I couldn't shake off. I returned to my seat, but I wasn't the same. Every smile from across the room, every glance that held mine too long, carried a current I couldn't resist. I kept telling myself it was innocent, just a tension I hadn't felt in years, but my body betrayed me, leaning into the thrill. With every sip of wine, my walls grew weaker, my excuses louder, and my conscience quieter. My husband raised his glass in a toast with his friends, laughing carelessly, while I felt the weight of eyes on me again. There was a thrill in knowing he was unaware, a dangerous excitement that made me question my own boundaries. My heart pounded not from fear, but from desire laced with guilt. And when his friend brushed past me again, his hand grazing my arm in a way that lingered too long, I knew the night was far from innocent. Something was unfolding, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to stop it. Word count, ~575 white heavy checkmark. Do you want me to continue with section 3, climax ~570 words, right away? The air inside the house felt too heavy, and I needed a moment to breathe. I slipped out onto the balcony, clutching my glass, letting the night air cool the heat burning through me. The city lights twinkled in the distance, their calmness mocking the storm that churned within. I told myself I just needed a few minutes alone, a break from the laughter, the stares, the music. But I wasn't truly alone. A quiet shuffle of footsteps behind me confirmed what I already knew. He had followed. I turned slightly, finding him leaning against the railing, his expression relaxed but his eyes holding the same intent I had tried all evening to ignore. Too loud inside? He asked, his voice steady, almost casual. I nodded, unable to trust my words. He offered me a lighter for the candle flickering on the table nearby, his hand brushing mine again, deliberate and warm. We stood in silence for a moment, the kind that doesn't feel empty but charged, waiting for someone to break it. I tried to remind myself of my vows, of the man sitting only a few walls away, drunk on laughter and oblivious to the quiet danger unfolding just outside. But when his friend shifted closer, the distance between us dissolved. His hand brushed my arm, then lingered. My pulse quickened, a betrayal of the calm mask I was desperately trying to hold. I should have stepped away, but instead, I let him speak. His words were gentle, spoken so close they felt like they touched my skin. He told me how beautiful I looked under the dim light, how he had noticed the way I seemed unseen, overlooked. His voice was a mirror to my own thoughts, the insecurities I carried but never dared to confess. And that recognition, that dangerous understanding, broke something in me. When his hand found mine, I didn't pull back. I knew the line was there, clear and undeniable, yet the forbidden nature of it only pulled me further. His lips brushed against mine before I could form a protest, soft at first, testing the waters. For a heartbeat, I froze, torn between morality and the raw ache of being wanted. And then I let go. The kiss deepened, hungry, desperate, filled with everything I thought I had buried long ago. My body responded with a force that left me trembling, every touch sparking something I couldn't deny. For those stolen minutes, the world inside the house ceased to exist. There was only the heat of his mouth, the grip of his hands, and the rush of desire stronger than any logic I clung to. I knew it was wrong, but the pull was greater than my resistance. When it ended, the weight of reality crashed back in. My breath was ragged, my hands shaking, my heart heavy with both thrill and regret. I wanted to speak, to erase what had just happened with excuses, but the words refused to come. He looked at me with an expression that promised more, but also warned of consequences I wasn't ready to face. Then, from inside, I heard my husband's voice calling my name. It cut through the night like a blade, shattering the fragile bubble we had created. I straightened quickly, my heart pounding in panic. I smoothed my dress, wiped my lips, and forced a composure I didn't feel. When I stepped back inside, I carried a secret that already felt like a shadow trailing me, one I knew I would never outrun. Word count, ~573 white heavy checkmark. Would you like me to finish with section 4, aftermath ~570 words, guilt plus secrecy, now? I walked back into the room as if nothing had happened, though every part of me trembled with the memory of what I had just done. My husband smiled at me warmly, his arm pulling me close as if nothing in the world had changed. I forced a smile, leaning into him, yet the weight of guilt pressed harder than the wine in my veins. His laugh was easy, carefree, and it cut me deeper than any accusation could. He had no idea. That was the worst part. I sat beside him, nodding at his stories, laughing when everyone else laughed, but my mind was far away. The secret on my lips felt like fire I couldn't put out. I kept stealing glances at his friend across the room, and he, without a word, returned them. No one else noticed, but I felt every look like a silent reminder of what had passed between us. My chest tightened with the realization that I wasn't imagining it, something had shifted, and it would never shift back. When the party began to thin out, my husband took my hand affectionately, thanking me for coming with him. His touch was gentle, his love unquestionable, and it made me feel like I was crumbling inside. The more tender he was, the heavier my betrayal grew. I replayed the balcony in my head over and over, the kiss, the heat, the way I had given in so willingly. It wasn't loneliness now, it was shame. Yet alongside the shame lingered the memory of thrill, of being desired in a way that left me shaken. On the ride home, his voice filled the silence, recounting jokes and stories from the night, while I sat quietly, nodding, hiding the storm within me. He reached over once, squeezing my hand, his eyes full of trust and affection. That simple gesture almost broke me. How could I look at him the same way, knowing the secret I now carried? Lying in bed later, with him sleeping peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling, restless. My mind ran in circles. Was it only the alcohol, the atmosphere, the attention I craved? Or was it something darker, something I had buried that surfaced when temptation found me? I didn't have the answers, only questions that twisted like a knife. I turned to look at him, his face calm in sleep, unaware of the fracture widening between us. Days later, the memory hadn't faded. His friend's eyes lingered too long when we crossed paths, his subtle smirk telling me the secret was alive between us. My husband never noticed, too trusting, too sure of the bond we shared. That trust was now a chain around my neck, pulling tighter with every glance, every silent acknowledgement. I avoided being alone with his friend, yet the unspoken tension followed me like a shadow. And so I live with it, the weight of one night pressing against my chest. I laugh when I'm supposed to, smile when expected, and play the part of the faithful wife. But inside, I am haunted. Haunted by desire, by guilt, by the knowledge that secrets never stay hidden forever. Each time my husband says he loves me, I feel the lie grow louder inside me. Because the truth is, a single night changed everything, and no matter how much I wish to undo it, the memory remains, a silent betrayal etched into my soul. Word count, ~574 white heavy checkmark. Now the full story, sections 1 to 4, is complete at around 2,300 words total, a little above your 2,000 target, which is good for natural flow. Do you also want me to create a shortened version, like a 100 to 150 word summary teaser, you can use as an intro narration before the full script?